Welcome, everybody. The college football season is fast approaching, which means it's time for some college football preseason content. I'm Joe with the Game House, and today we're going to be taking a look at some of the college football coaching changes for the 2023 season. So, as mentioned, we're going to be taking a look at the college football coaching changes for the 2023 season. Some of these have been more recent, some of these have been around for a while. We're just going to go through them and talk about what some of the issues might be at these jobs and what the experience of some of these guys have been in the past. So let's get it started. In the ACC with Georgia Tech, Jeff Collins has been fired. He had a tough job transferring this team from a triple option team over into a more traditional offensive team, but it just didn't go well. They're bringing in Brent Key to be the head coach. He was the interim coach last year. He's also spent time at Alabama and UCF. I think he can do a pretty good job. It seems like the players wanted him to get the job, and he'll get his chance now. So I think it's still a little bit of a long road back for Georgia Tech. They need to build up that roster. Jeff Sims left in the transfer portal, and they don't have as much talent as some of the other ACC teams, so he has a long way to go. But being based in Atlanta, maybe you can recruit the state of Georgia pretty well and get the job done. All right, Louisville Scott Satterfield left the job for Cincinnati, surprisingly. I was about to say fire, but he wasn't. He decided to leave Louisville for Cincinnati. They hired Jeff Brom, and that's kind of the guy they wanted all along. Jeff Brom has done a lot of good things at Purdue. He's going to open up that offense. I think Louisville goes from a team who was decent with Scott Satterfield, goes to a team that could be, in the next couple of years, near the top of the ACC. Whatever the ACC might look like in a couple of years with all this conference realignment. I do love the hire for Louisville. I think they got the right guy, a guy with ties to the program, and the city of Louisville could not hurt. So I think it's a pretty good hire, and we'll see what he can do this year. Nebraska, they fired Scott Frost and they hired Matt Rhule. There was maybe some rumors out there that Scott Frost wasn't necessarily paying too much attention to the job. Matt Rhule goes to the NFL, and a lot of people don't like his NFL coaching, but he did do a really good job of turning around programs in the collegiate level, Baylor and Temple. I think this is a good hire for that reason. Nebraska's going to need a lot of turnover to fix this thing. They're going to need to get talent in unconventional methods. Maybe that's, transfer portal, maybe that's recruiting guys that just other schools aren't looking at. They need to figure that out. So I do think it's a good hire. He has a lot of transfers coming in. As mentioned, Jeff Sims coming in at quarterback. And maybe it's not year one. I think in his first year at Baylor, he only won like one game. So this is one where maybe it takes a couple years, but I think it's a good hire, especially they needed to get a coach with this Big Ten expanding. Nebraska could even be more lost in the shuffle if they don't get things going there. And I think hiring him now is a very good choice. More recently, Pat Fitzgerald fired at Northwestern after an investigation into hazing about the program. David Braun is the interim coach. We'll see if they hire anyone full-time right now. They kept the rest of the coaching staff on, which is kind of weird if they knew about the hazing. Wait to see what all comes out about the report, though. I'm not claiming to know everything here or all the facts. But David Braun came in this offseason, and that's why he's been tasked with leading this team because he wasn't around during a lot of these hazing allegations, I guess is the thought process here. We'll see how he does. A big job for him to do, though. Northwestern has not been good over the last several seasons. They have all this going on, all the off-the-field stuff. They have all the academic standards. He knows he's probably not going to last past this year unless he does an incredible job because they're going to be looking for someone else. We'll see what comes of it, but this is more of a Northwestern made the move. They're going to have to make another move probably before the start of next season. All right, Purdue, Jeff Brom ended up leaving the job to go to Louisville, leaves the Big Ten to go to the ACC, and Ryan Walters comes in. Now, this is going to be a tougher job, too, because Purdue, I think, really hit the nail on the head with the Jeff Brom hire personally. Ryan Walters comes in, has defensive experience. Can he turn that defense around while the offense maintains that same level of play? It's not going to be easy. As mentioned, the Big Ten is expanding. Can Purdue stay relevant with that going on? I don't know. It's a very bad time for that program to lose Jeff Brom. So we'll have to see how they do. Wisconsin fires Paul Chryst. They bring in Luke Fickell. Absolutely love this hire. Been one of the best coaches in college football at Cincinnati over the last couple of years. Totally turned around that program. Tommy Tuberville did not leave the program in a good state. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do at Wisconsin. He's going to change the offense up a little bit, but hopefully he can keep that offensive line playing at the level they usually play at and get that defense fixed as well. There's no reason why they can't win the Big Ten West this year and then in the future have some sort of relevance in the Big Ten. I don't know if they're a playoff team every year or anything like that. I don't think they've ever been threatened to be like one of the elite teams in college football in our lifetimes, my lifetime I should say. But I do think they can be a pretty solid program with Luke Fickell and maybe push up against some of the elite teams in the Big Ten. The Big 12 As mentioned, Luke Fickell left the Cincinnati job. They hired Scott Satterfield. Curious hire here. It didn't seem like he was doing the best at Louisville, but he did do a good job at Appalachian State. He helped Appalachian State transition from the FCS to the FBS. So the thought process is here, he can help take over Cincinnati going from the AAC to the Big 12. Now, I don't know if he's going to be able to do a lot of the rumors where maybe he ran too tight of a ship at Louisville. Can he do that at Cincinnati? I don't know. They have a lot of roster turnover themselves. They have guys in the transfer portal, a lot of guys leaving for the draft over the last 2 years. They need to rebuild up that roster, keep recruiting Ohio. Obviously, Satterfield coaching at Louisville the last couple of years. He has ties from around the area since that's relatively close. It's going to be a longer process. Cincinnati's not projected to do that well in the Big 12 this year. I think he could do some good things, especially Texas and Oklahoma are out, so there's no big national brand that's taking over. Cincinnati could be one of the better teams in the Big 12 if he does well, but it's going to be a long road ahead. Herm Edwards is fired at Arizona State. They're going to bring on Kenny Dillingham. Dillingham is a younger coach, ties to the university. I think they can really help them moving forward. This year is going to be tough, though. Pac-12 is stacked with those teams at the top. Drew Pine coming in at quarterback might be maybe some help there, but at the end of the day, it's a good hire. We'll see how it goes in the future. They had to get rid of Herm Edwards. There were some NCAA violations, and the team just wasn't doing as well as maybe they would hope. So Kenny Dillingham was a pretty good hire moving forward. Colorado fires Carl Durrell, and they hire Deion Sanders. Love the hire. Deion will rustle some feathers. He has a lot of players leaving the transfer portal, so this year may not be the best, but at the end of the day, he was a very good coach at Jackson State. He knows how to recruit talent. He's got plenty of talent at Colorado. The depth may not be there yet, so wait maybe a year or two before we decide whether Deion is a great coach or maybe a bad coach. But I think he can do a very good job because he recruits talent and he knows how to coach his guys and relate to his players. The Stanford Cardinal, they had David Shaw step down, and they hired Troy Taylor. He's done a good job at Sacramento State, so he knows the area very well. I'm interested to see how he does, though. You're moving from the FCS level up to the FBS level at a school like Stanford. That's not an easy jump. They have a long way to make up. They've been kind of tailing off the last couple of years, and now they need to get back to the top of the Pac-12. Yes, there's some teams leaving, but it doesn't make it any easier for Stanford to build that roster up, especially with the academic restrictions that they do have. The SEC, Brian Harsin is fired. Wasn't the greatest fit for the SEC from the start. Hugh Freeze is hired, and mainly you have to watch out for the off-the-field stuff with Hugh Freeze. For this upcoming job. I mean, you know what happened at Ole Miss. Then he goes to Liberty. He knows how to coach an offense. I'll give him that. I think he can get the most out of his offensive players. But Auburn, again, maybe not in the right position right now. Brian Harsin, maybe not the best recruiter over his time at Auburn. So maybe not year one he does well, but maybe Hugh Freeze gets things going in the later years. Again, just hopefully he follows the rules of the NCAA rules and kind of sticks to it. But at the end of the day, I guess they're going to get a guy. It's a huge risk to hire him, but if he works out, he can do some big things like he did at Ole Miss. All right, Mississippi State Bulldogs. Sad here. Mike Leach passed away last year, one of my favorite coaches in college football. They promoted Zach Arnett, the defensive coordinator, to take over. He is staying on as the coach this year after being the defensive coordinator. It's always tough when a coach passes away. To pass that on to someone else. And Zach Arnett did a good job getting that team ready for the bowl game last year, so I'm glad he got his opportunity here. He has Will Rogers returning at quarterback, so he has some stability at the most important position. I don't know if they're a team with the SEC expanding too that can really keep their head above water for the future. I'm interested to see what Zach Arnett does, though. I would like him to do well personally because I do think carrying on Mike Leach's legacy would be really, really important to the sport. All right, some Group of 5 ones. We'll go through these a little bit faster. Will Healy was fired from Charlotte. They're bringing in Biff Poggi. Coastal Carolina had Jamie Chadwell leave the job. They're bringing in Tim Beck. Florida Atlantic fired Willie Taggart. They're bringing in Tom Herman after he had sat out a couple years from coaching. Kent State had Sean Lewis leave the job. They hired Kenny Burns. Liberty had Hugh Freeze leave. They're bringing in Jamie Chadwell from Coastal Carolina. I did not think he was going to leave the Coastal Carolina job, but especially if not for a Power 5 job, but he's going to Liberty. North Texas has Seth Luttrell being fired. They hire Eric Morris. Texas State fires Jake Spavital, and they hire G.J. Kinney, the former Tulsa quarterback. Tulsa fires Philip Montgomery. They hire Kevin Wilson. UAB has Bill Clark retiring. They hired Trent Dilfer, the former NFL quarterback. He's been very adamant on social media about how he's going to win and do things at UAB, so it'll be interesting to see what he does down there. UNLV fires Marcus Arroyo. They hire Barry Odom, the former Missouri coach. USF fires Jeff Scott, and they hired Alex Golesh. So there's a lot of coaching changes this year. There always is. That's just the pressure of the job and everything there. Let me know what coaches you think are going to do the best in their new situations. If you're asking me personally, this is not the top of the top in terms of jobs that were open, but I do think Deion Sanders personally will be a very good fit for his job. Luke Fickell at Wisconsin. And I'll even say Matt Rhule at Nebraska. It may not work out, but I do think it was the right hire for the job after his history turning around programs. So let me know in the comments below what you think. For now, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.